to you by iDaily. Today we are going to be talking about user interface changes. My name is Frederick Barron. I'm a technical architect with iDaily. And today with me is John Jones, a solution architect with iDaily. As we go through our training today, this is an interactive training. We ask that if you have any questions, that you ask them in the question box on the GoToMeeting control panel. We will also be asking questions as we go through this training in the form of polls. We've got one up on the screen right now. What color is the Summer 16 logo? White, black, green or red, black and blue, white, gold, or none of the above? So you can go ahead and answer that question right now. All right. And the correct answer is actually none of the above. The summer logo is the fireworks and it's multiple colors. So a bit of a trick question there. Our itinerary today, what we're going to be talking about. First of all, like we said, this is an interactive webinar. We welcome your questions, whether they're on topic or not. If they're about Salesforce, we will try to answer them today. When we started this, we started with a brand new org. You can view the videos of our previous trainings up to this point on our YouTube channel. If you've missed a previous training, we recommend that you go and you do that. What we've been doing is we've been building out a new company org, and so we are building on previous work that we have done. Again, we're going to ask you to bring your questions. We want you to get the most out of this that you can, and when you have questions, that will help us help you learn what you want to learn. So we have been, like I said, we've been building an org for a fictional company. We call it Universal Boxes. They're a subsidiary to Universal Containers. And what they do is they manufacture boxes of all shapes and sizes for customers all around the world. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to John now, and we are going to get started on our training today.
All right, thank you, Fred. Today, like Fred mentioned, we're going to talk about user interface changes that can be made to the system. And we're going to start with what are user interface changes and what changes can be made. Real simple, user interface changes are simply changes that you can make to change the way the Salesforce interface looks and functions. For your general users, for admins, there's a number of different pieces there that can be done. Some of the things that can be changed, we'll list some of these on the screen here. We've got the quick create that's generally in the top left of your sidebar. You can actually pull that off and hide it. You can pull and hide the related list and hover details, and actually those are separate. You can have the related list show up and turn off the hover details, or you can take the list off completely if you want to. You can change the way the tab bar organizer works. You can collapse the sidebar, or you can make it so that they can't collapse the sidebar. It's just always there. There's an enhanced profile view that changes the way profiles are viewed. And we'll take a look at these in a demo inside the org here in just a minute to show you some of these things. There's also enhanced setup, which changes the way the setup works. So we're going to throw another poll up here just to get your brain thinking a little bit and get some of those juices flowing. Just want to see what your thoughts are. What options, which of these options are other things that can be changed within the user interface of Salesforce? This is multiple choice, so you can mark multiple answers if you'd like. So go ahead and take a guess, mark some of those. Which ones do you think are things that can be changed within the system? Now, depending on your org setup, you may already be seeing some of these changes and not realize it. What we've listed here on the screen are some of the top answers or top things that we've had to change ourselves that we've run across as consultants working with different companies and different orgs. All right, looks like we've got a pretty smart group with us today. We'll close out that poll. So the correct answers are actually all of them. Every one of those items are other items that can be changed within the user interface of Salesforce. So we'll go through and I'll show you some of those and how they work. I'd recommend you go in and play with them in the dev org yourself as well. The second part that we're going to take a look at is the new Lightning interface. This is a newer interface as of about a year or so ago. It may or may not be turned on for some people. If you have a new org, then it's probably on because it's on by default within the new orgs now. It has a much different change and look and feel to your system, but there are things to be aware of. It is a complete user experience change. What they've done with this is basically they've designed a user interface that is consistent across all devices, whether on a computer, on a tablet, on a mobile phone. You'll see there they've even got in their picture a watch. So it's a similar look and feel across all your devices, whereas currently in the past, if you stood on the classic Salesforce view, then your view on a mobile device is completely different than it is inside the desktop. So this changes that. One thing to be aware of, not all pages have been updated with Lightning. There are some things that have not been updated to the new interface, but it's not a huge concern. Basically what happens is when you try to go to one of those pages, it just switches back to the classic view while you're on that page. And then when you go back to a page that is Lightning enabled, then it just puts you back in the Lightning interface. So it dynamically takes you back and forth depending on what you're looking at. So it's not a major issue, but it is quite a bit of a change as you're working with it. So before we go any further, well actually let's jump in to the demo. So let's go take a look at some of the standard user interface changes. So we're going to start with what's called the classic view. We're going to go into setup. And under customize, at the bottom of the customize list, there's a user interface option here. This is where you control all of these options. And you'll see there's actually quite a few of them here. So let's go through and take a look at some of these and what they do. So we mentioned the quick create. I'm going to pop another tab open here to look at this. So here's the quick create. It's this little create new option right here. This is the quick create drop-down list. So we're going to turn that off for fun. We're going to turn off these hover details. And I'm going to turn on the enable collapsible sidebar as well. And we'll leave that off for just a minute. I'm going to go ahead and save this. And refresh my screen over here, and you're going to see so that create new is consistent there in holding, and it should have hold off by turning off that item. But I know that does take it away. I've done that before. Let's go in and look at an opportunity here. And you'll notice I don't have any lines across the top talking about all my related lists that I normally have there. They have been completely removed. So you actually have to scroll down to see those. So I'm just going to turn on the enable hover details. Which doesn't actually work unless you have the actual list showing up there. So now you see they're back. So you can see these changes, like we mentioned, these are things that will actually change the way things work. Now notice on my sidebar, it's pretty static. I don't have any options to collapse it or bring it out or anything that way. This is another common thing. So I'm going to turn on this collapsible sidebar. And there's another option here, show custom sidebar components on all pages. You may or may not have noticed this sidebar changes a little bit depending on what page you're looking at. So if I go back to my home page, you'll see I've got custom links and messages, alerts, and a couple of things there that disappeared when I went to opportunities. So let's turn that on as well. We'll save that. And we'll go back to the home page. And you'll see the sidebar collapsed automatically. But I've got an option on the side here to open it up. So that's the collapsible sidebar. It lets you pull it out of the way, using more real estate on your screen if you want to use it. And you'll see now as I go to opportunities, that sidebar is staying consistent. All of my items are there instead of having it shrink and go away on me. So that's one of those fun little features. Another one that's a common thing that we've seen people use a lot are these enhanced views. So there's an enhanced page layout, enhanced profile list, profile user interface. There's also an advanced setup and improved setup user interface. So let me point out a couple of things before I toggle these. Take note of the way my sidebar looks here in setup with the options, administer, build, deploy, monitor. And let's also take a look at a profile. If I go into a profile, I've got this just full list view of all my features showing up here basically in one screen. Now we're going to go make a couple of changes and then we'll come look at these again so you can see what the difference is going to be. So first thing is I'm going to turn on the enhanced profile views, and I'm actually going to turn off the enhanced setup user interface. This advanced search setup option is, well, we'll come back to that in just a second. I'll explain that. That changes the way this search box works. You can save this, and you'll see right away, I now have personal set up with all of my personal items here, my personal information, email, and things. I then have an app setup section with my customize, create, develop, and an administration section. Manage users, manage app, and so forth down here. So you see it completely changed the way this sidebar is working in setup. Now let's go in. We've got to come down here to the bottom now under manage users, and let's go look at the profile view now. So if I go to a profile, and you'll see this is a completely different interface than we had last time. Now I can't see all my options on one screen. They're broken out into separate sections. If I want to look at object settings, I'm going to go here to object settings. And now I have any information here on the screen, but it's high level still. If I want to get deeper into something, let's go take a look at opportunities. I got to go to the opportunities object within the profile. Now here's all of my settings, including field permissions specific to opportunities. We'll go back to the profile view. Now one feature that is really nice about this view is this find settings option. So a lot of times you may be looking for a specific permission and not sure where it is. That's where this is really handy. You can come in here and say you're looking for permissions on reports. Well, there's an object setting for reports and there's system permissions for run reports. Well, that's the one I was looking for, is I want to make sure my users can run reports. So there's where they're at. They're under system permissions, and if you can edit the profile you're on, there'll be an edit button here where you can actually change those settings. This is a system profile that I chose here, so I can't do that on this one. But I can clone it, and then I'll be able to make those changes. I'll do this real quick to show you. So now I've got the edit button. So there's my option. So I can just hit edit, and now I can make sure that I've got that turned on as I need it. Different interfaces have different features. One caution I'll give you, I do prefer this enhanced profile view. It is easier to manage and consolidate a lot of things, but we have found a couple of permissions here and there throughout the system that don't show up under this interface for some reason. Some of that has been fixed in releases, but recently we ran into another one that we couldn't find in here, and I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, but you can still have it on. If you can't find the permission, just go into your user interface and toggle it back off. Turn off the enhanced profile view, and then you'll be able to have the standard interface that has all those options again. So you see there's not really functionality changes with any of this. This is just more preference of how do you want things to look? What do you want it to do? And that's kind of the idea behind most of these options. And it also gives you a little bit of control over your users. Another one I want to point out here before we move into Lightning is this calendar option. Everything's turned on by default here, but let me show you what this does. This actually gives you some nice features for your calendar that are not quite well known, but they're controlled right here on this section. So what this is, most of this is around this drag and drop option. So if I go to an account list view, I'm going to go to my account, and down here at the bottom of my screen I've got this open calendar option. Pop my calendar open, and now I can drag any item out of my list view right onto my calendar. I need to meet with this company on Wednesday at 9 o'clock. And now I can create my event, and this is actually going to go for, we'll say, till 1:30. I can specify a contact in here if I need to, and I can save it. And now I've added that item to my calendar just off of my list view. And I can close my calendar down and continue working. So that's what that drag and drop calendar interface is for. You can do that with contacts. You'll see the same open calendar option. You'll see that open calendar option on pretty much any list view in the system. Accounts, contacts, not opportunities, but I've seen a couple others where that has shown up as well. So before we move into Lightning, do we have any questions around any of those standard user interfaces?
All right, John, one here. They're saying that they don't see the open calendar. Can you go through that one again? You show us where that's at.
Yep. So go into your, if you don't see that open calendar, first of all, check which object you're looking at. Make sure to start with, go to accounts, because we know it should be there on account. And if you still don't see it, go into your setup, pop open your customize option and go to the user interface and make sure that these items are turned on here. You've got the enable drag and drop, enable click and create, enable drag and drop scheduling elements views. That's the key one that you need turned on there. So make sure that's turned on in order to see that option. If you don't see any of these calendar items in your user interface sections, log a support ticket and tell them, hey, I heard about this feature, but I can't seem to find it in my org, so that they can help you figure out why those are missing. As far as I'm aware, those are generally available for everybody, and they've been there for a couple of releases, so pretty much everybody should have access to those at this point. Okay, if we don't have any more questions, before I move into Lightning, we're going to throw up one more poll up here. We just want to get an idea of anybody that has turned on or is using the new Lightning interface. While we're letting you do that, let's talk a little bit more about Lightning. Lightning is a newer development piece that Salesforce has been working on for a little while. It is a user interface change, but it actually goes beyond that. There's actually a lot of Lightning development tools that are out there as well. There's only a handful of companies that are actually developing with it right now. It's still fairly new, but it's becoming more and more popular, and more people are learning it and starting to work with it. It has a lot of power behind it. It allows for better customization. I believe, and Fred can speak a little more to the development on it, but it does allow more customization and I believe more functionality for the developers to use within those components.
So from the development side, the biggest change with Lightning is that, like John said at the beginning, your developers can develop once, and it's the same experience whether it's on a phone, a tablet, on a computer. That it really makes it, up until now, what we've had to do is we'll develop for the desktop, and then we'll develop for Salesforce 1. And we have to do separate development for both of them. Lightning integrates it, so we're developing one time, and we're using it across all the different devices. All right, so it looks like we're pretty evenly split here on our poll. Half of the people are saying that they have enabled Lightning, and half of them have said that they have not enabled Lightning.
All right. So those that have enabled it, you know some of what we're talking about. So we're going to go through, and if you have specific questions about your Lightning interface, go ahead and start throwing those in, and we'll answer those in just a little bit as we go. To start with, I would recommend anybody that is considering, if you don't have Lightning turned on, go to a sandbox or go spin up yourself a developer org. You can do that at developer.salesforce.com. They're free. Anybody can grab one. We've got multiples of them ourselves working on different projects. But it's a great way to go play with functionality and take a look at it. I recommend get into some sort of an instance where you can play with the Lightning interface and look at it and see what it's all about and see if that is something that you actually want. To turn it on, under Setup, there's this Lightning Experience option right here at the top of your setup. And this is going to give you some more information. There's an introductory video that you can watch right here that talks about Lightning. There's some different options for you to turn on here. And as you scroll down, you'll see some different information showing up here. We're going to go ahead and turn these things on right now. And I'm going to hit Enable the Lightning interface here. Now, one thing to note, and I'll show you where to do this, the Lightning interface can be controlled through a profile or a permission set. So if you want to turn it on, but not all of your users want to use it, then it's something you could set up in a permission set and just enable it to users that want to use it and let everybody else stay in the classic structure, classic view. So that is an option to consider. So now that I've turned it on, I'm going to pop to my home screen, and you're going to see, nope, why didn't we switch? Well, let's go build a permission set, make sure that we're fully set up to be in Lightning here. Just going to create a permission set called Lightning, and this is going to be for the Salesforce licenses. I'm going to do a quick search to find Lightning Experience user. Okay, so here it's hiding under permissions. So let's go to Edit. Come down here, here it is. So we'll turn that on. We'll say Save. And now I'm going to go to my Manage Assignments. And I'm going to add my user to this permission set.
Okay, there's one more step that you're going to have to do. Because Lightning is new, users, once you've given them the permission, they can turn it on and off. So you'll need to go to the name and switch to Lightning Experience.
Thank you, Fred. I was forgetting that step. So that is another thing, is you can turn it on and then you can notify your users. If you don't like it, you can turn it off yourself as well. And they can control whether they want to use it or not. All right, so here we are inside the Lightning interface. So things are a bit different now. Our home screen's got quite a bit of different things here. Well, we've got some different charts showing up here. This one's showing our quarterly performance. There's an assistant piece on the side here. This is going to show things like tasks or approvals or anything like that that needs your attention right now automatically for you. Kind of a nice little feature there. There's some account insights here that just kind of shows you some news about different accounts that you may have or that you may be looking at. Here's going to be your calendar, anything upcoming today, any tasks you have today. Here's a recent records list and some top deals. Now this can be fully customized, just like the standard Salesforce interface. You can customize the Lightning interface to have what components you want on it. There's more options for that. We'll show you some of that today, but we won't go too deep into it. We just want to give you a high level and kind of show you this. Let's go take a look at opportunities now. So here's our list views. You see this is kind of similar. We've got our different view options here. You'll see there's a list view controls here to create a new one, to rename and share and things that way. Here's your actual list. And you can display it as a grid. I don't have the option for a Kanban right now, but that may be something new that's coming. And there's the refresh item there. Let's jump into an opportunity. And now here you're going to see this is a much different interface. This bar across the top that's all red now, these are actually your opportunity stages. So it gives you a much stronger view of what stage your opportunity is in. And you can actually move an opportunity just by clicking on any one of these stages. And mark as current stage. And it's actually going to change this opportunity. And so that's what it looks like when you're in the middle of a deal. You've also got some different panes here. So you've got an activity grid, which is going to show you all your activities. And then there's the collaborate, or your chatter feed is right here. And then there's the actual details of the opportunity here. So it's kind of breaking things down a little bit for you and putting them in their own separate categories. And that account insights bar on the side here is following. You'll notice some of the information is staying static no matter what I'm looking at here. I did not mean to click on that, sorry. So this is going to stay on top here, and let me see. And you can change some of this information as well. You've got your edit, delete, clone, and other options for the record right up here on top. And if you go to edit, you'll see it just kind of pops out this little bar, and there's your edit screen.
So John, we've got a question here. Leslie said that they had Lightning but turned it off because they couldn't see all of the activities in one view. They want to know if that has changed.
That is a good question. You say you couldn't see all activities in one view. I'm assuming you're looking at a record on this activity pane and you couldn't see all of the past activity history showing up here. I haven't heard of any issues with that. That is something I'll have to look into a little further. As far as I know, it shows all activities, and it probably puts them into pages where you've got multiple pages to scroll through to look at all those activities. Let's take a note of that one, and we'll get back to you. I'll do a little bit more research on that question. That is a really good question. I will check on that for you. As we go through and look at different objects, you'll see different things. Leads have a status that's got the same type of bar that the stages on opportunities did across the top here. And you'll see a similar setup throughout. You'll see with leads, the sidebar is a campaign history section, showing what campaigns they've been in as well. Tasks is your task list, which is a little nice because that's a little harder to find in the classic interface as your task list. There's also files. So you see that all of your tabs have been moved to the side here. And as you hover over these, they'll tell you what they are. If you hit this little icon at the very top of the sidebar, it pops it out so that you can actually see what each of those items are as well. So you can open that. Let's take a look at the dashboard. This is one of the really powerful parts of Lightning. With a classic dashboard, you've got 3 components across and I believe 7 down possible. So basically 21 components possible. Well, I'm going to edit this dashboard. And let's show you what happens with dashboards now. So I'm in the edit mode, and you'll see it's got these markers where I can actually grab and change the size of these. And as I do this, you'll notice these little blocks showing up underneath my components here. So the dashboards are now based on these blocks. There's 9 across, and I don't know exactly how far down it will go. But you'll see that you're no longer confined to 3 across and however many down you want to go with your components. And as you move them around, it kind of rearranges so that you have no overlap going on with your component. So this is one of the really big changes and power tools of the new Lightning interfaces. Your dashboards now become much more customizable to do what you want to with them. Reports are very similar to how they've always been. If we go to, we'll take a sample report here. So there's our report details. If I want to edit the report, you're going to see this is the old classic. So this is one of those changes where they haven't updated this interface at all. It's the same interface that it's always been to edit a report. But you'll see how it's within the Lightning framework, but it's the old interface. So this, again, like we said earlier, highly recommend. There's a lot to this Lightning interface. Get yourself an instance where you can play with it, go in and take a look at it, figure it out, see if it's something that you like, that you want to use. Let's go take a look at setup. So we've got some different options across the top here. We've got this plus sign for global. This is basically that quick create section. We've got this app launcher. So these are your apps that have been in that blue bar up across the top there. You've got help and training set up, any notifications that you have, and then the little icon over here is your user. And that's also where you'll switch back to classic if you want to do so. Let's go take a look at the Lightning setup. This is quite a bit different as well. There's some really cool things that they've done in here. To start with, administration, they've set up so that your user settings are really easy to get to right here across the top. You've got data information here, your data import wizards and export options, your mass options, your storage usage. Your email settings are all right here for the system. And you'll see right here is some sync options, some Lightning Sync, and some Lightning for Outlook settings. A lot of these settings we are still learning ourselves, so we may not have all of your answers, but if you have questions or desires to see any more detail, let us know and we'll do some more in-depth training on some of this as well. Here's your apps and where you can change some of those app settings. And objects and fields is something I really want to show you. So let's take a look at the Object Manager. So previously, your objects were in two places. You had standard objects under Customize, and then you had custom objects under Create Objects. Now, all of your objects, standard or custom, are in one list. You'll see they're all here. They're alphabetized, so it's easy to find what you need to. And you'll see some different information here about last modified, deployed, custom. So if it's a custom object, it's just going to put a check mark here and tell you that. And you've got options to edit it right here, as well as you can actually click on any of these. So let's click on this Add Group option here. And you'll see it just takes us to it. So now here we've got our different options. Here's our details, our standard details of the object. Here's all of our fields and our related items below. So it's kind of consolidating things together and making it a little easier to find everything you need to. Your automations here, you've got your approval processes, flows, process builders, workflow actions. All of that is here, and this is all automation pieces are all going to generally be inside the standard classic interface. Here's your user interface controls. So this is some of the stuff we were looking at previously. But there's a few more features here that they've got. You've got options to control your link templates, your custom labels, your global actions. And then here's those user interface clicks that we were looking at previously. Custom code listed here for any of your Apex code or custom development that you may be doing. Environments is going to be your change sets, your sandboxes, anything like that that you may be working with within your control. And then you get further down and you start getting into your company settings, your calendars, your fiscal years, your domains, your identity, and security settings. And then there's a Lightning experience at the very bottom there. This is that same screen we saw before that has all these different options. So there's your high-level view, taking a look at some user interface changes, both in Classic and in Lightning, and how some of those work. Do we have any other questions at this time?
John, we do have another question here.
Yeah.
How does Lightning handle custom objects, and can you create a Lightning interface for custom objects?
So you're asking how does it handle a Lightning interface for a custom object?
Yes. How does it handle a custom interface? Or yes, how does Lightning handle the interface for a custom object?
Generally, your custom objects are going to have a similar look as something basic like leads or accounts, where it's basically just going to list your related lists and your details with some high-level information across the top. Depending on the setup, some custom objects might default back to the classic interface. Let's take a look and see if we have any records inside our custom object. I think we do. We have to remember. Fulfillment. Try that. So this inventory, this is a custom object, and you'll see it's just simply the related list and the details showing up there. So most of the time, you're going to stay within this Lightning interface and look and feel. You'll just have some different clicks to look through to find your links to things. But it won't necessarily throw you back into the classic interface unless there's a specific reason that it's not going to work. If you've got special components or code that won't work with Lightning, then it'll throw you back into the classic interface. But most of the time, just standard custom objects will look like this within your Lightning interface. Great question. Thank you for that one. Any more?
It doesn't look like we have any other questions right now.
Okay. Again, thank you very much for your time and participation today. Like we mentioned, we will check on the activities list, and we'll send out an email to this group and let everybody know what we find as far as if that issue has been resolved within the Lightning interface. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you for your questions. We look forward to seeing you on future sessions of Ask the Admin by iBailey.